So welcome everybody to the 37th edition of the Limerick Literary Festival in honour of Kate O'Brien, and our first ever digital edition where the festival goes out in its entirety online. We're very lucky today to be able to be joined here in the lovely Lime Tree Theatre in person with the organising committee of the Limerick Literary Festival, Marie Hackett, Vivienne McKechnie and Eileen O'Connor, and we're just going to talk a little bit about the history of the festival, the challenges that we've experienced over the last year as we go through the COVID crisis and how that's formed our programme for this year, and then a little bit about our plans for the future and what we think this impact will have on the festival going forward. So you're all very welcome. Eileen, if I could get you to talk to me a little bit first about the history of the festival and its establishment.
So yes, back in 1984, 10 years after Kate O'Brien died, it was decided to set up a festival to commemorate Kate O'Brien, and the then Arts Officer Robert O'Byrne got together with Hugh O'Donnell of the English Department in UL, Susan Lane, Pat O'Malley and Nora Meany. I think that was what the committee comprised then. So, and essentially, yes, it was to commemorate Kate and also to celebrate good writing. And from then, I suppose you could say that every weekend since then has been a great opportunity for creating this convivial space where writers and readers can meet and mingle and, you know, argue and enthuse, discuss life, the universe, everything. And that has been really what has kept the festival going, what brings our loyal supporters back year after year. And the format that the festival took essentially was that I joined it a number of years later along with another long-serving member back then, Kate O'Callaghan, and she added that lovely byline, I think, which we have used year after year to the festival, that it was a festival by readers for readers. And the format then that it took was that the opening night, it was a good excuse for us to hang a musical event on it, and we borrowed from one of Kate O'Brien's books as Music and Splendour. For that, Kate's book tells the story roughly or broadly alluding to the life of Margaret Burke Sheridan, who became a Puccini prima donna. And for that reason, we thought it was always a good idea that we would invite a young talent, Irish female talent, not always that, okay, to actually give a recital on the opening night. So that bookended one end of the festival, so to speak. And then with the various events on the Saturdays, it was a great opportunity to come and listen to writers from not just Ireland, but from abroad, all around the world. And on the Sunday, we had what was called the Kate O'Brien Lecture. So that essentially, over the years, we have kept that format. And the committee has always, you know, it started out with really people who were enthusiastic about Kate and enthusiastic about her writing. And it's sustained, it's what sustained it and kept it going, you know, all these years, 37 years later. And it effectively really is like a lot of us enthusiasts, not a lot of us, just a few of us really, because we're a small committee, but we meet and we enthuse about what we've read and what maybe the writers whom we've read, we thought, oh, they would have a place maybe on our programme for next year. So essentially that's the way that it has evolved, somewhat organically without a huge plan at the very beginning of it, but it's kept it going, and yeah, and we still enjoy it.
And of course tonight we'll be following on that tradition of As Music and Splendour, yes, with streaming of Limerick's own opera workshop opera company and Fiona Linnane's work in progress No2 Pery Square, which was composed for a site-specific work in the People's Museum at No2 Pery Square and shot over last summer. So at the end of this, we'll have a little streaming of that if people want to stay with us and enjoy the opera performance. We couldn't drop it even in this time of crisis. We felt it was important to continue the opera as part of our festival. Yes, If I can open out the questions now to the other members of the committee, to Vivienne and Marie, I suppose the specific challenges that we faced this year, obviously it's been a very difficult year across the board for everybody, and in terms of the festival, we had just come down from last year's festival. We were lucky that the festival happened just in a week or 10 days before the first cases of COVID-19 hit Ireland. And how has this last year impacted how you would normally programme the festival? How has that been different?
Well, it was definitely a big challenge for us due to the fact that we mightn't be really specialists in IT, and we had to suddenly adapt to a new form of festival. We were going to lose our physical audience, but obviously thanks to the effort of everybody, we have managed to overcome all this, and we have been able to offer, I think, something that is very, very good. And it has opened up also a certain amount of exits as well for us, in a way that we realized that it is now possible to reach out internationally. Before, during the previous years, it was always a pleasure to welcome foreign writers, contributors from England, America, but unfortunately the American writers tend to be very expensive, which means it's kind of prohibitive for us to kind of invite them along. But last year we had actually Richard Ford, and it was a beautiful experience, but travel expenses were extremely high as well. Now suddenly we realize that we can actually get in touch with everybody in the world, and we can, they don't have to travel. We still will pay for their contribution, of course, as we do with every other contributor. But they can actually talk to us, and we can talk to them in the comfort of their own living room or whatever. And that is wonderful, really. People, I don't know, I don't know why I'm thinking, but of Paul Auster, for example, who would now be able maybe next year to participate in the weekend, you know. But it can be somebody in Australia, somebody in Japan, anywhere. So it's wonderful. So this year we have actually been able to do a recording in Paris, and it has worked extremely well.
And that leads us on really nicely actually into looking specifically at the French element of the programme. The festival has had a long association with the French Embassy in Ireland. As we can tell, you're obviously French. And so could you tell us a little bit about those two elements of this year's programme that are in association with the French Embassy in Ireland?
Yes, sure. We have two events this year. I just want to say that I always had a very strong association with the French Embassy. I was for 37 years French Vice Consul here in the region, and but when I retired from this function, I still kept close contact with the embassy. And I suppose a few years ago we more or less decided to kind of extend maybe the international side of the festival. I suppose since the KOB, the Kate O'Brien weekend, became the Limerick Literary Festival in honour of Kate O'Brien, we felt that maybe it gave us more scope to open up nationally and also internationally. So I contacted the embassy, the cultural service of the embassy, and I must say they were so enthusiastic. But again, the French program is small compared to what our main program is. We have two events. One of them is an interview. Again, when we do meet, we put ideas together, we talk about the books, we talk about the different possibilities for the following festival. And the idea of interviewing Negar Javadi, the Iranian French author, came along from us, but also from the embassy. And I wish to thank very much Stéphanie Muchin, who is a literature project manager at the embassy and who has been extremely, extremely helpful. She was able to contact Negar. Now, I must say something about Negar, the fact that she became an overnight success. She was already a film script writer, she was a camera woman, but suddenly she became with Des Orientales, her first novel, an overnight success in 2016. The book won many, many awards and was eventually translated in 15 languages and came to Ireland, really, at the Dublin Book Festival and was shortlisted. And so it seemed to be the right decision to interview her. We asked Cleona ní Riordan, whom we know from previous years, who is herself professor at the Sorbonne Nouvelle in Paris, to interview her. Now, the interview was conducted in the Irish Cultural Centre, this beautiful, beautiful place in the center of Paris called Le Collège des Irlandais. And it was recorded in French, and we had it subtitled in English, of course. But I have a feeling it will be a very good experience for our Francophile or Francophone, well, Francophile audience to test their knowledge of French. So the second, and this is taking place on Saturday, it is taking place on Sunday at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And then the second event, the idea came from Stéphanie at the embassy. She felt that it would be a good idea to have a panel, a publishers panel, due to the fact that we are living in strange and unusual circumstances, and how the COVID was going to affect the work of a publisher. She also had numerous contact with publishing houses all over Europe. She knew Caroline Michel from Paris, and she knew then Sabine
Westprizer. Westprizer.
And Lisa Cohen from Trent Press in Dublin. So it's great. It was chaired, managed by one of our committee members, associated committee member, Sarah Moore Fitzgerald, and it's great. It's lovely. I'm looking forward to seeing it. Yeah. So that's what more or less I have to say.
Our French program has come together. Vivienne, if we could come to you, and I know that you quite regularly in past festivals would spend a lot of time at other festivals across Ireland, the UK and across Europe. And how has that changed for you this year in terms of programming and finding authors to bring to Limerick?
I think it's been much more of a challenge in that, before I used to go to a festival, and then I would hear someone and think, oh, fantastic. And I remember bringing Catherine Towers, a poet I heard at one festival, and I brought her. I came back to the committee and said, we've got to have her, and nobody had heard of her. And she came at the same year we had Seamus Heaney, and she, between me hearing her at the festival and coming to our festival, she won the Seamus Heaney Centre for Poetry Prize. So she got to meet Seamus Heaney, and he had read her work, and it was fantastic, absolutely fantastic. Other writers I've gone specifically to hear, and then gone with my Kate O'Brien brochures and shoved them in their hands. They don't always say yes, but I try my best and try and get their contact details and ask them. Originally, asking people was the reason we changed the festival to the Limerick Literary Festival in honour of Kate O'Brien, because prior to that, as Eileen said, when it was set up, very often people thought that it was an academic weekend, which was be filled with academics talking about Kate O'Brien, different aspects of her writing. So we wanted to make it, as Coit had said, a festival for readers, run by readers. So we wanted people that readers would come and say, oh my goodness, I love that writer, I love those books, I want to meet that person, I want to ask questions, and I want to get them to sign the books. Now that's the challenge for this year, in that you have the writer on the screen, but you can't talk to them, you can't go up and get your book signed. I have a real passion about getting books signed. I've arrived at every festival with bags of books to be signed. And one person was Louis de Bernier. I went to see him at a festival, and I bought Captain Corelli's Mandolin, which was bought in hardback at the year he brought it out. But I also stopped in Oxfam bookshop and bought 2 other books by him. And I stood in the queue, and when he actually signed it, he was thrilled. He was holding the hardback Captain Corelli's Mandolin for so long I thought I wouldn't get it back. And then the second thing, he picked up the 2 Oxfam books, and he goes, oh, you cheapskate, where'd you get these? But he was great, and he came to the festival, and so we've had great stories and great experiences meeting the authors and having dinner with them, and having people at the opening. So that has changed. However, just one thing that's been really positive, as Marie said, the idea of a hybrid festival would never have been thought of had we not gone through this year where we've seen it's become the norm to see people on a screen. So now, as Marie says, we can search around the world and say, oh, I'd like that author or that author, and have them, not physically, but have them on the screen. And that would be a wonderful experience for the festival.
This year our theme for the festival is the writer at home and abroad, and I know that when we were making our funding applications way back in last May and June, not knowing how long this would go on for and what the future held for us, we really made that choice to focus on Irish writers. And you can see from our contributors for this year, there's very well-known names in there: Dermot Bulger, Katie Donovan, Julian Goff, and Dr. Neil Fitzpatrick. Can you talk to us a little bit about that and the where we came to that decision to focus on the writer at home, that if we're in our homes that we're going to their homes?
Well, just one thing about that was that I often have the feeling that when writers are writing a book, they're enclosed in a study or a special place where they write from, and then they finish the book, and it's a very, very solitary thing. And then they have to, much more nowadays than they did years and years ago, they have to get up and they have to go around all the festivals and promote the book. And some people find that quite difficult, other people find they love it. I'm sure there are lots of people. So it was a really nice idea that this year we were able to do the opposite. We would move, not physically, but we would move in space and time into their private place or their place of creativity and see them at work and let them talk to us from that space, as opposed to coming to talk to us from a space that is very, very public. So from that point of view, that writer at home and abroad is a wonderful thing, because the writer is at home, but all his or her messages and voice and creative space is coming to us, and we can peer in, if you like.
A lovely idea of us peeking in the windows of all of these beautiful writers. I suppose if we think about going forward, what we might carry with us and those elements, are there elements from each of you that you think that we will definitely carry forward, that we'll do again in the future, even though it isn't necessitated that we might still have some digital element into the future?
Yes, I think as Marie was saying there's certainly, we had thought before that it would be, but it was mostly from an archival point of view, that we would like to record some of the events at the weekend. And I don't think we ever really thought about it in terms of, retransmitting them or putting them up anywhere. But certainly this time, I think, as Marie was saying there, the notion that now we can ask anybody, somebody, you mentioned Paul Auster, well, we could also have him in conversation with his wife, Siri Hustvedt, who is also a writer. And that would be a real coup to be able to do things like that. Yeah, both of them. Yeah, exactly. So that aspect, I think it would be a great idea to be able to have some slot on our programme where we would be able to do that, because even from the point of view of the most solitary of writers, and you know, many of them do lead a very ascetic and remote life, I think nonetheless, and just even from, you know, talking to one or two of them, this COVID has been a challenge for them, because there was always the possibility out there, even if they were to not always engage with it, there was the possibility there that they could. And a number of them have said, you know, we're finding we do miss the festivals all the same. And but your question, like what can we take from this experience, is that we should have a digital element to our festival, and it'll be interesting what we can put into that, you know.
But we can also, from the point of view of what we had never thought of before, there are a lot of people who year after year will say, I would love to have come to the festival, but I couldn't come because of some reason, or maybe they were ill, maybe something, an accident, or they just literally, it wasn't the right time for them. So now anybody can access the festival from any part of the world, which is fantastic. And so I think that's a huge plus for these really, really difficult times. So I think that's something we can take forward with us and say, right, we'll have a digital element, and we will then be able to be accessed by anybody who has previously wanted to come to the festival but couldn't.
Regardless of where they are in the world.
Correct, But at the same time, we need the physical as well. That is so important, because even for us, it's kind of a reward, isn't it? And something we really look forward to. The mixing up, meeting people in real, and as Eileen was saying, you know, having a meal afterwards with everybody and having a bit of fun. It is our reward. We like it. And we see also our audience, our faithful audience who do come every year. And it's a pleasure, even if we meet only once a year. But isn't it a beautiful experience, really? So we cannot forget that physical contact as well, in spite of the fact we are just so tired at the end of the weekend because we've put so much into it. But so, as we said earlier, hybrid, both ways. And that's the way I think the festival will go in the future,
If I could ask each of you, I mean, is that the thing that you'll miss the most? That general sense of meeting people and having, and the things that you don't plan to happen at a festival, but just because you're together in the same space, that you accidentally end up having a huge chat with Richard Ford, for example, over something silly. Is that what you'll miss the most, the contributors and the audiences coming together in those unplanned moments?
It's true, yes.
Yeah.
We do miss that,
But we also miss, even coming up to the festival, what we miss as a committee is meeting, you know, these Zoom meetings, which are great, but they're exhausting. And what we miss is coming together as the 3 or 4 of us, and, you know, Eileen would say, you have to read this book. Or Marie would say, you have to read this, or we share ideas and have this love of literature and of books. And we've lost that a little bit with the Zoom, because we're focusing on, you know, the digital aspect. And I think that idea of, you know, even, you know, Marie bringing a physical book and saying, you should read this, and, you know, even from the point of view of reading the newspaper, it's in real life, where you pick up a paper and you read the section that has all the book reviews in it, and you ring something and say, I need to invite that person. So I miss that part. And then at the same time, when you've invited that person, we miss exactly as you said, Ella, just this unplanned conversation with a writer you've really admired, or a chat with somebody you've met in the audience that was really, really enthusiastic about one of the writers we chose.
So Vivienne, what did you tell us something that you're going to miss about the festival and our digital space this year?
Okay, one of the things I really miss is the physical presence of the bookshop. O'Mahony's come every year with the books, so that after you've heard one of the writers read from and talk about their book, you can go out and buy the book and get it signed. I think this idea of having the physical presence of books for the writers as well as the writers is wonderful, and I really miss that.
And of course you can go to O'Mahony's, you can do click and collect at O'Mahony's here on O'Connell Street in Limerick, or order from them online. So we really encourage you to support them as an independent bookshop, as they've supported us over the last number of years.
The other thing too, Ella, from what Vivienne and Marie were saying there, it's like the chance meetings, but often it's also the meetings between the writers that we invite, and you forget, because we're asking each people in an isolated way, you forget evidently the community of writers is just such a small kind of group themselves, and it's lovely because they've said that it's an occasion then for them to meet up over the space of a weekend, and it's, from their point of view, it's very sociable too from our point of view, but from their point of view it is as well, so.
I was just thinking actually of during the week, Rose Servatova, who was one of our contributors last year, had shared a memory of being at the festival and on Instagram, and it was a picture of her and Niall McMonagle, and how she'd learned that he was such an Austin super fan, and so he was kind of having a little fanboy moment having to meet her. It was a lovely memory that she shared, and really spoke to, I think, how much the contributors love being part of the festival. Yeah. It's definitely something, as we've been recording all of this content over Zoom and over our different platforms, that they've each said is that they really wished they could be here with us, that they really look forward to the moment when they can come to Limerick, and hopefully that will be soon, that they'll get to come back soon and come back to the festival.
Yeah, and over the spooling of the years, like it was curious, we said there, this was maybe a couple of years ago, we had Emily Pine, but back about 27 or 8 years earlier, we had her father, Richard Pine, and I think it was almost exactly, or maybe it was something like 25 years exactly between the two. But that sort of, in that sort of a way, you realise a generation has gone by in the interim, and the weekend is still there, and it still is vibrant, and
that leads us nicely into looking to the future and the work that the Literary Festival does to support emerging writers and young writers. And Vivienne, one of the important elements of the festival is the announcement of the now annual Kate O'Brien Award. So this will be our 6th year.
It's actually
our 7th year. Our 7th year presenting the Kate O'Brien Award. So Vivienne, you sort of lead that subdivision of the subcommittee. If you wanted to talk to us a little bit about the Kate O'Brien Award.
It's a wonderful award. It's surprised we came up with the idea that we would create an award for emerging writers. So this is a prize which honours Kate and her pioneering work as an Irish female author. And it is, we decided we would limit it to Irish female writers, but it's for the best debut either novel or short story collection. And this, as I say, is the 7th year. So we have a wonderful shortlist. We've had amazing journeys over the years, because we've had one of our contributors this year is Sarah Bohm, and she won the prize in 2016. So the writers, reading their work takes you on a journey, and it's really, really interesting then to see the writer who's won the prize go on and write other books, and which you continue to enjoy. The award is really, really important. So this year we got 13 books submitted, and it was so difficult to choose a shortlist. Normally we have a shortlist of 4. The only other year we haven't had a shortlist of 4, where we had a shortlist of 5, was the year of Eileen Battersby was shortlisted with her wonderful novel Teeth Marks on My Tongue, which is a very sad story, because she was not only on the shortlist, but she was due to be one of our contributors at the festival before she was very, very tragically killed. So that just reminded me of someone who had been a huge supporter of literature in Ireland, and someone who I would look forward to reading reviews by and get inspiration from. So that was a real loss. So this year we got 13 amazing books, and we struggled desperately to get 6. But we came up with a wonderful shortlist of 6. I don't know whether they're up there, they are. And just if we go in alphabetical order, we start with This Happy Niamh Campbell. We go to The Temple House Vanishing by Rachel Donoghue. Michelle Gallen's, A Big Girl, Small Town. Marion Lee's A Quiet Tide. Elaine Feeney, As You Were. and Una by Alice Lyons. So the journeys we went on with those writers were incredible, and we have to wait until Sunday for the announcement of the winner. But the judges were excellent. Our judges are Eileen, Marie, Niall McMonagle, Donal Ryan and myself. So we each judge independently of each other. So we are just incredibly lucky to be given by publishers the books. Then we set off on the journey and we read the books, we make little notes, we think and we reread and so on. And then we put out a shortlist. After the shortlist, we reread the books again and we try to come to a conclusion as to who the winner is, which you'll find out on Sunday. The other thing to mention about the prize is that when it started initially, we didn't have a monetary element. And then thanks to the generosity of Bill and Denise Whelan, we have €2,000 prize each year, which is absolutely fantastic because the prize is to give a boost to a writer starting out on her career. And to get, first of all, the acknowledgement is wonderful, but then to get a monetary prize as well is always obviously very, very welcome for a debut novelist or short story writer. The publishers, I approach the publishers, but I also get recommendations from Eileen and Marie who might have read did you realise that this is a debut novel or whatever? Publishers sometimes are not quick to respond, and this year we could have missed 3 writers, but they were reviewed in national newspapers, and so I contacted the publishers and they were really, really grateful. So it's a long task, but it's a wonderful experience, and I think we've all really enjoyed it.
And then Eileen, I believe we have some news to add to our stable of support for emerging authors, building on that 7-year tradition of supporting emerging debut novels, published novels with the Kate O'Brien Award. Eileen, you have something to announce for us today?
Yes, okay. So this is a new and exciting dimension to the festival. It's the Limerick Literary Festival Prize. And this is for an unpublished, completed manuscript by an Irish female debut writer. So we will be inviting submissions, okay, for a completed manuscript. And the winning manuscript will be announced at the end of the summer. After that, there will be a runoff of 500 copies, okay, which will be printed and will be ready for the launch at the 2022 Limerick Literary Festival. So it's a wonderful prize, and it has been made possible by the generous support of Paul and Aileen Finucane. And it is distinct from the Kate O'Brien Award, which is for a debut Irish published female author, which is supported by Bill and Denise. And it's a manuscript prize, okay? So it's to actually, and in a way, this is kind of further evidence of our support for emerging authors and also supporting literary creativity. It is going to help writers really to get past the first post and into print. And I think it's a kind of an exhilarating thing for a young writer. Young, old, it doesn't actually, there is no age limit on this, but the chance to be able to see your literary efforts in print, and it's transforming your manuscript into a book, and it's no small achievement. So we're very grateful for the support of Paul and Aileen for this prize. And I think it would be an enormous thrill, you know, for anybody once you've completed your manuscript to have the chance of seeing it in print. So yes, that's another dimension to the our festival this year.
So a very exciting announcement, and I know a lot more work on the table of the committee and the readers panel as we move forward to read all those unpublished manuscripts that we hope to receive this year for our inaugural Limerick Literary Festival Manuscript Prize. Of course, all of the work of the the committee and the Limerick Literary Festival wouldn't be possible without our supporters and without our funders. So we really want to take a moment to acknowledge the support of the Festival Investment Scheme from the Arts Council and Comhairle Eileen, Limerick City and County Council Festival and Events Scheme, and the Limerick City County Council Culture and Arts Office, who support us year round in our work. Of course, the French Embassy in Ireland, who support our French elements to the programme. And of course, today we also want to acknowledge the Lime Tree Theatre, who have enabled us to come together for the first time in months. We literally haven't been in the same space as each other for months and months and months. So thank you very much to Louise Donlan and Jay Cavan at the Lime Tree Theatre for allowing us into the space to record this today, so that we could have some element of interpersonal connection as part of the festival. So of course we want to take this moment to mention that the Limerick Literary Festival, the work of the committee, wouldn't be possible without our wonderful funders, our sponsors and our partners. And so just to take this moment to acknowledge the support that we receive year round from the Festivals Department at the Arts Council on Comhairle Eileen, through the Festival Investment Scheme, the support we receive from Limerick City and County Council through the Culture and Arts Office and their Festival and Events Funding Scheme. Both of those are our core strategic funding that really make the work of the festival possible. And then of course our lovely French programme is supported by the French Embassy in Ireland. And tonight, just the opportunity to come together for the first time in months. I think it's been really lovely to see your faces here, and we've all been missing actually spending time with each other. So this wouldn't have been possible without the Lime Tree. So a big thank you to Louise Donlan and Jay Kavanagh, who made this possible for us to come in and be recorded here in this space. We hope that you enjoy the rest of the programme for the weekend. All of the tickets are free and you can register for them, and the links will also be on our website over the course of the weekend. So if you didn't manage to sign up for a ticket, don't worry, the link will be available and the content will stay up there for a little while. So if you miss the bang on 12:30, don't worry, you'll be able to watch it back. It'll be available for you.
I would like, on behalf of the committee, to thank you, Ella, for your commitment, your Trojan work, and the way you have always been available to us every time we have been in touch, and the way you have coordinated the whole event so beautifully. So thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Ella.
As always, a pleasure to work with you ladies.
Yes, yeah.
As we say goodnight here from the Lime Tree, we want to say thank you to our wonderful subcommittee who works so hard throughout the year, and then our other associate committee members. So Julian Hackett, who is involved with all of our design, our graphic design and running our website, to Mark O'Connor, who's been taking on the momentous task of social media and putting out our digital content this year, and of course to Shane Serrano and Crude Media for making a lot of our digital content for us this year. So thank you very much to everybody for making this unusual festival happen in such a wonderful way. And then finally, just to say, we really hope that you enjoy the programme and enjoy our opera. Our No2 Pery Square will be coming up next, so enjoy the evening, and we hope to see you all in 2022.
I saw a piece like this fetch a pretty penny last week at Dunphy's auction rooms. Didn't Mammy have that blue patterned china? Where did that end up? Don't you have lovely things in this room? That George Harewood fetch a pretty penny. Now he's back in fashion in the auction rooms. Wouldn't you be better off without all those paintings cluttering up the front room upstairs? Clear them out, remodel, and you'd make a pretty penny on the rental market. Instead of being alone in this big empty house, I'm not alone. Mother is here. Mummy doesn't count. Alone in this big empty house. An old house is never empty. Lives pass through and leave their mark. A painting on the wall, a crack in the mantelpiece. place in the attic. Footsteps.
Father was a dentist, and of sorts an artist too, concocting treatments, dental remedies, mixing, matching, experimenting, turning bad teeth good, turning black teeth white, all with a stroke of his brush. I studied painting at Limerick Athenaeum, a centre of learning, open to every class or creed, open to women too. Women, the female form, best painted uncovered. Women, the female form, best painted in chains. The stroke of a brush on canvas, nothing more sensual. The curved line of a breast, a buttock flowing down to a thigh, that quintessential feminine shape, or an exquisite calf curling down to a shackled ankle, and a well-placed hand to pacify the detractors. It's just the human form, natural as an apple. No one objects to fruit. I won a medal for death of William the Conqueror. Those who know art love historical scenes. Those who know art love to see war on canvas. Soldiers stand with their spears erect, brave men brandishing swords, rearing hooves of the victor's horse, crushing the skull of his foe. Death, destruction, faces twisted in pain, violence, bloodlust. Those who know art love to see one canvas. Those who know art love to see one canvas. But paint a nipple and everyone loses their head. Paint a nipple and everyone loses their head.
As per your instructions, we have carried out a survey of the deficiencies and the dilapidation at No2 Pery Square as it was on the 21st of October 1918 at 10 o'clock in the morning. 10 o'clock, 10 o'clock in the morning. Yes, ma'am. In the morning. Not 20 past 2. No, or half 11. At 10 o'clock in the morning. Yes, ma'am. Then tell me about your survey of the deficiencies and the dilapidation at No2 Pery Square as it was on the 21st of October 1918 at 10 o'clock in the morning.
Top floor, room 1 front. 1 nail in door, key to door deficient.
1 nail in door.
Key to door deficient.
Well, we must get a locksmith in.
Top floor, room 2 front. 3 nails in door, key to door deficient. 3 shutter knobs missing, closet pan broken. Top floor, room 1 back. 2 nails in door,
Key to door deficient. Oh, now let's take a look at you.